Hi friends! Are you looking for a strong bosser with decent clear speed that doesn't need tons of investment either? Well, this Lacerate Bleed Max Block Gladiator might be exactly what you're looking for. So why play? You can face tank a lot of things most other characters can't, like the wolf swarms of Lucius in the background. As already mentioned, you don't need much gear to get started and you can do all the content with around 10 exalteds of investment. Due to the tankiness and the little gear requirements recommended for hardcore and soul southbound leagues as well as softcore players. Bosses die rather quickly no matter the mods of the area. Deep slamming around and fast clear of monster packs are no issue. Lacerate is a great skill itself and the build balances active playstyle without the need to press too many buttons constantly. The only possible downside is that you might feel squishy on every other character afterwards. As the undisputed selling point of this character is its defense, let's take a look at it. We are both a gladiator and use the Flesh and Stone aura, so we make sure enemies around us are blinded and maimed. Blind is a debuff that lessens the chance to hit of the affected target by 50%. Not getting hit is still the best way to avoid deaths in Path of Exile. Maim is a debuff that applies 30% reduced movement speed on the affected target, which makes it easier to kite monsters and again, not get hit. Max block means we have 75% chance to block both attacks and spells. Any damaging elemental ailments such as Ignite or non-damaging ailments such as Chill don't bother us anymore as we have 100% elemental ailment avoidance. We regenerate 4.5% of our life per second and leech more than 4% of our attack damage as life even without Blood Rage. Not only do we have a high amount of armor on our character, we benefit from it with using Valmolten Shell in trick situations. During mapping, we also have 3 endurance charges due to the notable aggressive bastion on our skill tree, which adds another 12% of physical damage reduction to our character. Fortify is a buff that grants the player 20% less damage taken from hits, and we have it up all the time as it's part of our main skill gem setup. We have 76% cold and lightning resistance thanks to Soul of Steel on the skill tree, and the Barbarism notable pushes our fire resistance even to 77%. As we only use one unique item in this build, we could even cap our case resistance at 75% with rare items. This unique shield grants us 250 life recovered on block as one of its benefits. The very playstyle of this character itself is applying bleeding stacks and keep moving. This way monsters just die while chasing us and never have a chance to hit us with their skills. With min-maxed gear we can reach 6000 life at level 95 on top of being extremely tanky already. Now that you got a good feeling for the character, let's take a look at the gear and gem setups. I'll also provide information of how much this recommended gear costs and further improvements you could make. Please notice that prices may change and these are rough estimates at the time of making this build guide. For your orientation, cheap items cost a maximum of 20 Chaos Orbs, moderate items cost a maximum of 1 Exalted Orb, expensive items cost a maximum of 3 Exalted Orbs, and very expensive items cost more than 3 Exalted Orbs. Please check out the Path of Building link in the description under this video. Our main skill gem setup consists of Lacerate linked to Multi-Strike, melee physical damage, Brutality, Awakened Deadly Elements, and Fortify. For even more damage, you can use the Awakened versions of every support gem used in this setup, but it's rather expensive and only needed for min-maxing. Only Awakened Deadly Elements makes a big DPS difference to its non-awakened version and it's rather cheap compared to the other awakened gems. We have the Lacerate setup linked in our body armor, which is a 6-link Astral Blade. This is the first item that gives us elemental ailments avoidance from a bench craft. Together with that stat, you want high life, resistances, and armor on this item. An expensive upgrade would be a redeemer base for a damage suffix, either the 10% chance to gain a frenzy charge on hit, or up to 25% increased effect of non-curse auras from your skills. We socket the auras Pride, Warbanner, and Flesh and Stone together with Maim in our gloves. The Maim support gem increases the damage effectiveness of the blood stance, and all auras boost our damage significantly. A very expensive upgrade here would be to change Pride with Malevolence if you get your hands on a Watcher's Eye with high damage modifiers for Malevolence. On our gloves we want high life, up to 16% to physical damage over time multiplier from the Hunter influence, and other damage modifiers such as attack speed and added physical damage. Spiked gloves are the best base here, and the enchantment doesn't matter. As an upgrade, you could try to get real high damage rolls together with some resistance. Our movement skill setup consists of Leap Slam linked with blood magic and faster attacks. This way we can spam our jumps without mana issues. We also link Vaal Ancestral Warchief in this setup as it benefits from the support gems. Use the totem only in boss fights and against tanky rare monsters for an extra damage boost. The boots have high life, resistances, movement speed, and this is the second item that adds elemental ailment avoidance to the build. But this time it's a Shaper Influence suffix modifier. You could try to get overall very high rolls on this item, otherwise there's not much upgrade you could do. We are not dependent on any boots enchantment, but the increased attack speed helps with clearing. In our helmet, we have linked the cast when damage taken setup together with Steel Skin for survivability and Blood Rage for damage boost, life leech and clear speed. We also have our Vaal Molten Shell in here, but only use the Vaal version of the skill in situations that call for highest defense. Lacerate deals additional damage against bleeding enemies, is a very nice helmet enchantment, and we are looking for high life, dexterity, and an open suffix for yet another elemental ailments avoidance craft at the bench. As a very expensive upgrade, you could get a minimum item level 85 Elder base with the nearby enemies take 9% increased physical damage suffix on the item together with resistances. We have linked Tempest Shield together with Curse on Hit and Vulnerability in our main hand weapon. Keep Tempest Shield and Curse on Hit at level 1 for low intelligence requirements. Vulnerability can be leveled up for a higher curse effectiveness. Cast Tempest Shield at the start of each zone, it should stay up all the time as long as you are fighting monsters. The AX is the most important item of this build, and it needs to have the Elder prefix 60% chance for bleeding inflicted with this weapon to deal 100% more damage. The main reason we spec him to Crimson Dance Keystone. Furthermore, it should have high physical damage and attack speed. The extremely costly upgrade here would be to get even more physical damage and an additional Elder mod. In the only core unique item of this build, we link our counterattack Riposte together with its damage increasing supports, brutality and melee physical damage. The shield itself grants us a level 30 Reckoning skill that gets supported by the socketed support gems too. Our Gladiator Ascendancy Painforged doubles the damage of counterattacks, which makes them deal more than 350,000 boss DPS each in this recommended setup. The Surrender Azomite Tower Shield is an overall great item for this build and the upgraded version of the Anticipation together with the Blessing of Ul Netol. This shield is Breach League specific and therefore restricted to Breach content and some divination cards. This item really shines with its defenses, up to 1500 armor, 80 life and 30% chance to block. The special gimmicks are another plus 1500 armor if you've blocked recently and recover 250 life when you block. Get this shield, there is no other upgrade here. For rings, you want at least item level 80 Warlord bases, as this influence gives great damage mods such as up to 25% increased melee damage, curse enemies with level 8 vulnerability on hit, and up to 22% increased damage with bleeding, together with 10% increased bleeding duration. Just get a combination of these damage mods together with added physical damage to attacks, life and resistances. Don't forget to use abrasive catalysts on your jewelry to increase its attack modifiers. The amulet is an elder base with the suffix mod of up to 16% to physical damage over time multiplier, and we also want life and attributes on it. A costly upgrade would be to get added physical damage to attacks and attack speed on it too. For anointment we go with Deadly Draw only because of the last point. Bleeding you inflict deals damage 15% faster, which is a big damage boost. It's also really cheap for just 1 sepia, crimson and silver oil. Our belt is a Stygian-Vise with high life, resistances and some crafted damage on top. A very expensive upgrade would be to get a Conqueror influenced Stygian-Vise to open up Conqueror specific mods such as enemies have minus 15% to total physical damage reduction against your hits from the hunter. We use a Murderous Eye Jewel in our belt together with life, added physical damage to attacks and increased damage over time. Just get a combination of life and 2 or 3 damage modifiers. Our only non-clustered jewel on the tree is very important for smooth gameplay with this character. You really want to have physical damage leached as mana on it, otherwise you have to get mana leech somewhere else. This allows us to play without a mana flask. It's also recommended to get the corrupted blood cannot be inflicted on you as a corruption implicit. On top of that, we get a damage modifier or 2 with this jewel. If you wanna have life on it too, that would be an expensive upgrade. Our large cluster jewel has the 12% increased attack damage while holding a shield enchantment to be able to roll awesome block notables. Make sure that it's at least item level 75 to be able to roll 2 jewel sockets on it. For min-maxing our points, the large cluster jewel should only have 8 passive skills added. Our 2 medium cluster jewels have the plus 5% to physical damage over time multiplier enchantment to roll leech and bleeding modifiers. For min-maxing our points, the medium cluster jewels should only have 4 passive skills added. Our small cluster jewels have the 4% increased maximum life and 1% chance to block attack damage enchantments respectively. For min-maxing our points, the block jewel should have only 2 passives added, while 3 are fine for a nicely rolled life jewel like this one. If you manage to get 25% increased effect on it, it highly increases the value for each point. You don't need to have the same notables on your cluster jewels as shown here, just make sure you hit your 75% block cap with them, get some life leech and also chance to avoid elemental ailments. If you don't get it on your cluster jewel, you need to craft it as a suffix on your gloves to reach the 100% elemental ailment avoidance. This brings us to the last pieces of gear, which are the flasks. No need to care about elemental ailments, opens up suffix slots on them. Therefore we use a granite flask of iron skin, which substantially increases the armor of our character. Try to press it before Valmolten Shell for maximum effect. Even though we jump around with Sleep Slam, it's still nice having a Quicksilver flask of adrenaline for extra movement speed boost. Silver and Sulfur flask give us onslaught and increased damage, and it's recommended running them with curse and bleeding removal. Our last flask is a Seizing Divine Flask of Staunching, a true lifesaver in some situations. The skill tree is very straightforward and we kill all 3 bandits for 2 extra skill points in Act 2. On the passive skill tree we mostly pick up life, block and armor for defense, and bleeding together with one-hand melee weapon or axe notes for damage. A keystone to rush while leveling is Resolute Technique, as it highly increases your damage cause you won't miss your hits anymore. The second keystone, Crimson Dance, you should pick up later in the game after you have a lot of attack speed and your high physical bleeding weapon. For more tips on leveling and early character progression, please check out my build diary I made before this guide. The Ascendancy choices make Gladiator an excellent pick for max block bleed characters. We start with Blood in the Eyes and then we pick Gratuitous Violence to boost our offense. In Merciless Lab we go for Painforged and finish our Ascendancy tree with Versatile Combatant in Uberlab to increase our defense. Pantheons are situational, but Soul of Rislasa or Shakari for minor gods and Soul of Lunaris or Solaris for the major gods are recommended for this build. That's the end of this build guide. I can highly recommend this character as it's fun to play, very forgiving with its tankiness, and doesn't take all that much investment to make it into high tier maps. So give it a try and tell me how you like it. If you enjoyed this build guide, please click that subscribe button. There is plenty more YouTube videos in the works. I'd also be happy to say hi to you on my Twitch stream. I'm usually live on Twitch Wednesdays to Sundays with optional YouTube days. I'm Azu and I hope to see you there or on my next video here. Bye!